Hi, I'm Kristen Oakes-White.
And I'm Avery Davidson. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture, the only TV show bringing Louisiana farmers and consumers together every week. And it's said that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So what makes a pretty cow? That's a question I've asked you a few times, Kristen, because you used to show cattle.
Well, there's a lot more to it than most people think, and it's the way that they're built, the way that they walk, and there's even a body scoring system that plays into it, sort of like in a beauty pageant.
It turns out a Miss Universe of cows is from here in Louisiana. Why should you care? Because it means big money and a better tasting steak.
There was a time when hardly anyone wanted a cow like this, a red Brahman. Troy Thibodeau should know. He raises red Brahman cattle at Circle T Cattle Company in St. Landry Parish. He also spent 18 years as a cattle buyer. He says feedlots would pay good money for Angus, Holsteins, and even Longhorns.
But they said no red Brahmers at any money. And they had a bad reputation. And I guess I'm going to change that.
One could argue that Thibodeau already has. Lining the walls at Bob's Tree Preservation are banners and trophies and ribbons, and more trophies and more banners, all won by Thibodeau's red Brahman cattle.
You need to start with a winner to create a winner.
And he did create a winner. This cow right here is CT Lady Pasco Rhino, the reigning Miss World, which is the equivalent to winning the Miss Universe pageant.
Are you a pageant dad?
Well, I guess I am. Never thought of it that way, but I've done both. I've been on the other end, and I've been on the winning side, and I like winning better. It's a hell of a lot more fun.
I'm so proud of this young man. I saw him grow up and show cattle, and his kids now, they're my neighbors, and I've taken him like a son. All of these young people in the business are younger than me. I call them all my kids. And I'm so proud that Troy has taken and been able to take these cattle, show them all over the country, and then end up with the world champion.
Daniel Lyons is a longtime cattleman and is very involved in the St. Landry Parish Cattlemen's Association.
You're not just pulling out of a hat here. This is competition. This is a structured competition that's set up for her to win this. And she's Miss World.
Yeah, everybody wants to win. Everybody wants a winner.
That everybody includes these buyers from Thailand who are in Louisiana because of the cattle Thibodeau breeds.
The Thailand people have been very gracious to us. They bought one of our bulls from last year and paid $50,000 for it. And that's a lot of money.
These awards mean more than money. They mean a better steak for you. Thibodeau says that's what drives him to breed better cattle.
It was all about the consumer and what he or she wanted. That's why we have so many tests today funded by the National Checkoff Dollar. The sheer test to provide you an idea of tenderness and quality grades.
So when Thibodeau takes this national champion cow and combines her genetics with this national champion bull, it's not just for show.
All of that transpires into a better tasting steak, a more consistently better tasting steak. You want to be able to go to Mom and Pop or Ruth's Crisp. You want that ribeye to taste good every dadgum time you slice into it. And I want to produce the type of seed stock that the end consumer can be happy with what they purchased. That I want them satisfied because they'll come back for more.
Troy Thibodeau was quite humble about having such successful cattle. That said, he's at it again in Houston right now for the annual livestock show and rodeo there. He promised to send us pictures, so when we get them, we'll share them on our Facebook page. And I know you used to show cattle, like we said earlier. This is a little bit different from what you used to show, the Angus cattle.
I used to show Angus, and I have to say that I'm a little bit partial to Angus because to me they're always the business breed and the #1 breed, but to each his own. But Angus really are two completely different. It's a totally different breed than Brahman. It's a different species, in fact. Angus and other European cattle are called Bos taurus, while Brahman are Bos indicus. So, little food for fact there for you.
Well, and you can tell the Bos indicus because they have the hump on the back.
That is
and
one
I would
way.
say they're still high quality beef.
They are.
Speaking of high quality beef, for the past 30 years or so, the first Sunday of March takes on special meaning for the St. Landry Parish Cattlemen's Association.
During the organization's annual Here's the Beef cook-off and trail ride, people from around the parish celebrate the bounty of beef. TWILA's AJ Sabine went to the cook-off and has all the meaty details.
Take this as a sign you won't leave hungry. Welcome to the 32nd annual Here's the Beef cook-off. This event promotes all the flavor that beef can bring. From mini sliders to whatever this is, you can bet it's all delicious. Chairman Daniel Lyons explains why this family event is so important.
It brings the notice or notification of the beef industry that we have here in St. Landry Parish and in the state of Louisiana, as well as the United States.
Taking shape more than 30 years ago, the event challenges all comers to prepare their best beef dish. Lyons says the event has grown both in popularity and message in that time.
Every so many years, we get a new influx of cooks, and that has helped keeping it rolling. And then I get some people on our parish board that get involved. We get a new president, and they start helping. And their friends come in, they get their friends to come in and cook, and I work the community. As I go around this community all year long, the people asking, cook-off next year? Oh yeah, we're gonna have a cook-off. And then they get excited and they come.
They come for hamburgers, chili, steak. The cook-off brings in the best beef cooks around to compete in 7 distinct categories. Chef Tanya Dupree from Krotz Springs says her passion is competition.
This is fun for me. This is my obsession. So cooking is something that I love to do, and it's just fun to compete with it.
From hot music to dancing feet, this cook-off celebrated all of the flavor that is Louisiana beef. In Opelousas, I'm AJ Sabine for This Week in Louisiana Agriculture.
The St. Landry Parish Cattlemen's Association Cook-Off is sponsored in part by the St. Landry Parish Farm Bureau. The annual event features a trail ride, games, and of course, great food. Stay tuned for more details about the cook-off, as AJ will have a second helping for us very soon. In the meantime, for more information about the cook-off, log on to our website at twilatv.org.
Over the last couple of weeks, we've talked a lot about how dangerous life on the farm can be. Despite the danger, farmers are constantly working to make conditions safer for themselves and for you. More and more farmers are beginning to welcome guests on their farm. This week, TWILA's Carl Wiggers visited Homer, Louisiana, where farmers are learning how to make their farms more inviting to the next generation.
Today, this is a common scene on many farms across Louisiana. Agritourism. It's a popular new blend of entertainment and education that is gaining a lot of interest among consumers today.
Agritourism is popular today because we're 4 and 5 generations removed from the farm.
Farmers are working hard to ensure that their farms are ready for these new guests. That's why Dora Ann Hatch, the LSU Ag Center's agritourism coordinator, is hosting this group of farmers today.
The agritourism operations have curious visitors, but they know little about agritourism. They know little about agriculture. They don't know where the dangers are.
This agritourism safety management workshop is all about understanding those dangers. That's why Hatch brought in Marcia Salzwedel, who works with the National Children's Center for Rural and Agricultural Health and Safety.
We work to keep children safe on farms. And every year there is about 12,000 kids that are injured on farms. Of that, about 40% of those children are actually visiting farms. They don't live on them.
The number of children on farms is only going to increase as agritourism gains popularity. And at the root of this business is education.
You walk into any kindergarten, first, second, third grade classroom and you talk to kids and you ask them where their milk comes from, where their food comes from, where their meat comes from. they're going to tell you it comes from the grocery store. They have no clue that there's a farm behind that.
People do not have any idea of where their produce comes from. So when the farmer pulls the carrot up, they go, that was underground and I eat that?
Hatch explains that what makes agritourism a perfect classroom for children is the experience they get while they're learning about the farm.
You're going to have that opportunity to experience what it is instead of reading it on the pages, or maybe instead of seeing it on the screen, but you're actually going to interact with nature, you're going to interact with soils and learn more about agriculture.
But as these farmers are learning today, there's a lot of work and planning that must happen before these children can visit the farm.
There's a lot of things that we as farmers don't think about because our children are used to being around this stuff, that when we bring people unfamiliar with the farm environment onto the farm, they're not going to know. And that's what you really need to look at it, is what is this going to look like to somebody who's not a farmer?
The LSU Ag Center has a ton of resources about agritourism and how that you can get started. For a link to all that information and more, visit our website at twilatv.org. And you guys, I cannot wait to do another story on agritourism here in a couple of months at a place called Louisiana over in Amite. It's a place that's really, really special to me.
Why is it special?
I'm getting married there at a place called the Berry Barn.
Awesome, congratulations.
Yeah, they've built an entire agritourism hotspot around the strawberry farm that they have there in that parish. It's really cool.
You mentioned that they had animals. Are these animals going to be part of the wedding
I'm
ceremony?
really hoping they're not. Brittany and I talked about the other day how the donkeys may start like chiming in towards sundown, but we're really hoping that doesn't start to play a part in the ceremony.
I can hear them braying at the moment that they say, does anyone object to these two getting married? I can just hear the donkeys braying, hee-haw.
It'll be memorable for sure.
I hope
Carl
it's not that
Wiggers.
memorable.
Great story, Carl. Thanks. For almost 18 years, Dr. Joe Music ran the LSU Ag Center's Rice Research Station before he retired in 2003. Sadly, Dr. Music passed away this week.
TWILA's Neil Melanson takes a look back at a man who oversaw some of the most important innovations from that station while looking out for the farmers who gave so much to make it possible.
It's easy to just pass the LSU Rice Research Station on by in Crowley. You'd never know moving past here that it's the birthplace of technologies that have changed the world. It might also be easy to overlook the one-time administrator of the place, Dr. Joe Music, as someone who was just the boss around here at one time.
Dr. Music was not only the director, but he was someone that was very engaged with the rice industry. When I came around in 1988, he was very involved in grower meetings, helping growers analyze their problems and seeking solutions to those, whether it be at the Capitol or Congress or whether it was research.
Kyle McCann says Music's interest stems from his own background as a child and compelled him all his life.
Well, he had a farm background. As a kid, he grew up that way, and he was very attached to agriculture, obviously. But he was an administrator that knew the importance of that rice research station to the industry because, particularly even today, rice growers mainly plant public varieties that are produced at research stations.
Part of Music's legacy is the Clearfield rice technology, which has produced the dominant rice varieties grown in the country today. The research done here has produced the rice that you eat right now. Both your palate and your pocketbook owe a lot to Music and all the rice research grown right here in Louisiana.
During that time, growers also increased their investment in the checkoff. And one of the reasons they did was all the new technology that was coming out of the station. You know, he fought for those resources and to make sure the scientists had what they needed, but you had varieties like Cypress and the Clearfield technology starting to develop while he was the administrator there.
Dr. Music was 80 years old when he passed away. He's survived by his wife Susan, his 4 children, 12 grandchildren, and 7 great-grandchildren. We'll have a link to his obituary and a guest book where you can sign up on our website at twilatv.org. And guys, I remember Dr. Joe Music from the start of my career. When I first went out there, he was very welcoming, just always open and ready to do stories for us because he recognized the importance. He heard both Kyle and Dr. Mike Selassie in there talking about how, you know, much he was interested in the plight of the rice farmer, and that certainly came across. It extended to even people who were doing stories on him. And of course, what I also remember about him is his deep baritone voice. He had a deeper voice than Reg Wallace. Oh, wow. It was just super deep, and you know, every time you picked up the phone and talked to him, you knew instantly who it was.
God blessed him with those pipes. Thank you very much, Neil Melanson. A recent run of low commodity prices and last year's disastrous weather have taken a toll on Louisiana's farmers.
As Craig Gautreaux shows us, according to an LSU Ag Center economist, this year is shaping up to be another rough one price-wise.
Floods hurt Louisiana farmers last year, but low commodity prices for the past few seasons have been just as troublesome. Unfortunately, prices have seemed to stagnate for most commodities, leaving some farmers few options.
It's more of a challenge than maybe it has been for the last several years, particularly when you factor in that many of our producers are probably likely carrying in some carryover debt from 2016 because of the flooding situation that we had.
One commodity that seems to hold the most promise is sugarcane. Prices are decent for sugar, but it is a crop that does not offer an opportunity to increase acreage substantially.
The only thing with sugarcane is the ability to expand real rapidly is not there. We're talking about probably maybe having as much as 10,000 to 15,000 more acres.
Low rice and corn prices have many believing that acreage for these crops will drop significantly in Louisiana and across the country. Many rice farmers supplement their operations with crawfish, but even those prices are depressed.
We've got a pretty significant increase in supply thus far in 2017, and so we're seeing lower prices earlier than the year than we certainly have seen in the last 4 or 5 years.
Guidry has seen national forecasts calling for a reduction in corn acres by around 4 million, but an increase in soybean acreage by 4 to 5 million. This change is being dictated by price.
If you look right now, the current soybean to corn price ratio is about 2.58, 2.6. That's the highest it's been at this time in the last 7 years.
Guidry expects to see cotton acreage increase in Louisiana, but it is also limited in the number of acres it can increase because of the lack of gins available to process it. With the LSU Ag Center, this is Craig Gautreaux reporting.
Guidry says lenders have been monitoring commodity prices more intently and are making some inquiries on farm loans.
Still to come on TWILA, farmers are giving a happy meal to those in need.
Plus, we'll show you how some of the best and brightest in agriculture were honored at a recent ceremony. Coming up next.
Before you sweeten your morning joe, before the icing on the cake, before the sugar hits the shelf, it begins with a family of sugarcane farmers dedicated to growing Louisiana for more than 220 years. The Sugarcane Growers of Louisiana, making life sweeter, naturally.
Sugarcane, sweet sugarcane.
The Louisiana Farm Bureau Women's Leadership Committee gathered about $2,000 worth of groceries for a great cause. The Ronald McDonald House serves families who must stay long-term in the hospital, offering that family a home away from home. A large part in making this house a home for those staying here is the food inside.
Each year, the Women's Leadership Committee gathers groceries from across the state to bring to the Ronald McDonald houses in Monroe and New Orleans. Donations keep these doors open to help families in need. Executive Director of the Northeast Louisiana Ronald McDonald House, Georgia Street, explains why the food the Women's Leadership Committee brings is so important to the guests who look to the Ronald McDonald House in their times of need.
To be able to come back from the hospital and go into the pantry and know that everything in there is available for them. And it's such a blessing, and we've been told so many times, we just don't know what we would have done without this place, and they certainly don't know what they would have done without the food. So for Farm Bureau to come annually and bring wonderful food and even toiletries for the families to have is really, really a wonderful thing.
Street says she looks forward to the Farm Bureau's visit every year and called it a family reunion of sorts. The Louisiana Farm Bureau has been donating to the Ronald McDonald House for more than 20 years.
It's a way for us to give back to the community that supports us as farmers and ranchers. You never know, some of our members may be using these homes with sick children and needing to have peace of mind about the food that they're going to be able to eat and the place they'll be able to lay their head down without the added cost. We at Farm Bureau, we just feel like it's a good project. It's a good place for us to put our products and our time.
To learn more about the Ronald McDonald House or the Women's Leadership Committee, you can visit our website at twilatv.org. There are now 3 more inductees into the Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction, including the longtime president of the Louisiana Farm Bureau, Jimmy Gronyard.
The Louisiana Radio Network hosted the event at La Berge in Baton Rouge. Inducted this year were Louisiana Forestry Association Executive Director Buck Vandersteen of Alexandria, 87-year-old crop consulting pioneer Ray Young of Wisner, and inducted posthumously former Louisiana Farm Bureau President Jimmy Gronyard of St. James Parish.
It's a remarkable group of people. This event gets bigger and better each year, but this year will be hard to replicate.
The LSU Ag Center and the Louisiana Farm Bureau also sponsor the event. To learn more about the Louisiana Agriculture Hall of Distinction, visit our website at twilatv.org. Newly elected Louisiana Congressman Clay Higgins is now a member of the Cuba Working Group, a group seeking to better the relations between the United States and its island neighbor 90 miles off the Florida coast.
Louisiana Commissioner of Agriculture and Forestry Dr. Mike Strain says that's a great help. Strain spoke recently to the Baton Rouge Press Club about his trips to Cuba. He says everyone in America should be concerned that commodity prices are not going up as the stock markets skyrocket. According to Strain, there's only one way to get the prices for corn, soybeans, and wheat to go up.
We need to grow trade. We trade with China, we trade with Russia, we trade with North Vietnam. Why can't we trade with Cuba? I mean, all we're asking for is the same trade relationship we have with other countries of the world, no more, no less.
Strain says opening up trade with Cuba could inject more than $500 million a year into the Louisiana economy.
Still to come on TWILA, Avery, get out of my space.
What? I thought you liked co-hosting this show with me.
Well, that's a whole nother story, but get out of my space, that's the theme of this year's Ag Safety Awareness Week. That and more trending on TWILA up next.
I now hope they're fighting today.
I hope they are. Put a Dorito on here.
I got a fish! I got a fish!
Find your place in the country and the lender who can get you there. Find Louisiana Land Bank. Financing for country homes, recreational property, farms and ranches, and agribusiness.
Now it's time for this week's Trending on TWILA segment, where we go online to see what you guys are posting on social media this week. And Kristen, it was pretty serious this go round.
Very serious indeed. Deadly wildfires have killed 7 people and continue to roar across the Midwest, burning parts of Colorado, Kansas, Texas, and Oklahoma. In Gray County, Texas, a cattle rancher and this young couple died as they were trying to save cattle from a blaze in that area.
The wildfires have burned more than 1 million acres across 4 states, killing entire herds of livestock, damaging homes and farm structures, and forcing thousands to evacuate.
Many folks in the ag community took to social media to illustrate the scope of the damage and to show support for their fellow ranchers who are dealing with this tragic natural disaster. People have posted devastating photos of dead cattle, charred fields, and videos of the wildfires burning through acres upon acres of farmland in the Midwest. News and weather stations provide constant updates and evacuation alerts on social media as wind speeds cause fires to move rapidly across the area.
Kansas Farm Bureau Federation posted that many of their members have lost their homes and farms. The Kansas Livestock Association, the Oklahoma Cattlemen's Foundation, and the Colorado Farm Bureau have set up disaster relief efforts to help farmers and ranchers affected by the recent wildfires. To find out how you can help, visit our website at twilatv.org, and I encourage you to please do something to help them. You know, this is very reminiscent of the floods we had here. We are no strangers to disaster here in Louisiana. I know that the Farm Bureau family across the country is going to come in and help out.
I know, and if there's one state that understands the effect of natural disasters, especially in agriculture, it would be Louisiana. So reach out and help if you can.
And our prayers are with you. We can assure you of that. This week is Agricultural Safety Awareness Program Week, and ag groups from across the country actively used social media to promote the event and farm safety.
This year's theme, Get Out of My Space, highlighted a different safety topic from livestock to grain bins on social media each day. State Farm Bureaus participated by posting safety tips, infographics, and videos on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. To find out more information about the program, visit our website at twilatv.org.
Moving on to this week's Trending trending trivia. Last week we asked you about how much grain does the average 10-inch auger unload per hour? And the correct answer is B, 4,000 bushels. This week's question is, most farm-related fatalities are caused by which accident? Is it A, grain bin entrapment, B, tractor overturn, or C, electrical fire? To enter this week's trivia contest, just log on to your Facebook or Twitter account and post your answer with the hashtag TWILA Trivia, or you can always submit your answer online on our website at twilatv.org. That about does it for this edition of This Week in Louisiana Agriculture. We're going to have a rerun, an encore presentation next week, but after that, TWILA is headed to the nation's capital, Washington, D.C.
And it'll be a great show. Neil is headed to George Washington's farm in Mount Vernon. Carl will be following a farmer from here to D.C. And you'll be headed to the National Botanical Gardens, as I understand it.
That's right, the U.S. Botanical Gardens, because it's going to be cold outside and kind of snowy, sleety. And I seem to remember that at the Grand Canyon, getting pelted in the eyes with sleet. I'm not letting that happen again. No, I'm going to be in a greenhouse.
You would be. Well, for all of us here at TWILA, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week in D.C.